My mother died on a Wednesday, a quiet, ordinary, unremarkable Wednesday. No thunder, no dramatic final words, no music swelling in the background. She simply closed her eyes during an afternoon nap and never opened them again. The television was still on. A cooking show. The host was explaining how to properly fold dough. My mother loved that show. She watched it every day, even though she already knew how to fold dough better than anyone on television. Maybe she watched it because it made her feel like she still had something to learn. Maybe she watched it because the silence in the house was too loud without it. She was 71. She had lived in the same house for 43 years. She had cooked in the same kitchen, slept in the same bed, sat in the same chair by the same window, overlooking the same backyard with the same rose bushes she planted the year I was born. Everything about her life was the same: predictable, contained, safe. I am Elena. I am 43 years old, and when my mother died, I did what daughters do. I arranged the funeral. I called relatives. I accepted casseroles from neighbors. I handled the paperwork, the bank accounts, the insurance forms. I was efficient. I was organized. I was numb. 2 weeks after the funeral, I went to her house to clean it out. The house smelled like her: lavender soap and old books, and something warm I could never quite name. Every room was neat, every surface wiped clean. Her life was organized into drawers and shelves as if she had been preparing to leave for years. I started in the kitchen, then the living room, then the bathroom. I saved her bedroom for last because I knew that was where the smell of her would be strongest, and I was not ready for that. But eventually, I opened the closet. Her clothes hung in perfect rows. Blouses she had worn for decades, faded at the elbows, pressed and clean. Shoes lined up on the floor like obedient soldiers. And behind the shoes, pushed into the far back corner where the light barely reached, was a wooden box. It was about the size of a shoebox. Dark walnut. No label, no lock. I had never seen it before. I pulled it out and sat on the edge of her bed and opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, handwritten on lined paper, folded neatly, placed in envelopes. Some were addressed to people I recognized: her sister who lived overseas, a childhood friend, a former colleague. Some were addressed to people I had never heard of. All of them were sealed. None of them had stamps. 47 letters, written over 40 years, every single one unsent. I opened the oldest one first. It was dated June 1981. My mother was 29. The letter was addressed to her sister, Rosaria, who had moved to another country the year before. The handwriting was young, urgent, alive. It did not sound like my mother. It sounded like a woman on fire. She wrote about wanting to travel. She wrote about a teaching position she had been offered at a university 200 miles away, a position she desperately wanted to accept. She wrote about feeling trapped in a marriage that was comfortable but airless. She wrote about a painting class she had secretly signed up for because she had always wanted to paint but was afraid someone would laugh. She never sent the letter. She never took the teaching position. She never talked about wanting to travel. She never mentioned painting. She stayed in the house. She stayed in the marriage. She stayed in the same chair by the same window for another 40 years. I opened more letters. Each one was a window into a version of my mother I had never known existed. In 1987, she wrote about wanting to open a small bookshop. In 1994, she wrote about a man she met at the library who made her laugh for the first time in years. Nothing happened between them, but she wrote 3 pages about what it felt like to be seen. In 2003, she wrote about wanting to learn to swim. She was 61 and she had never learned to swim because her own mother had told her that water was dangerous and women should stay on solid ground. Every letter was the same pattern: a burst of longing, a flicker of courage, and then a slow, careful retreat back into the life she already had, the safe life, the expected life, the life where nobody was disappointed and nothing was risked and everything stayed exactly the same until the day she closed her eyes during a cooking show and didn't open them again. And then I reached the last letter in the box. It was dated 3 weeks before she died. The envelope was different from the others, thicker, slightly crumpled, as if she had held it many times. I turned it over. It was addressed to me. I opened it with shaking hands. It was 2 pages long. Her handwriting was weaker now, thinner, but still careful. I read every word. Then I read it again. Then I put the letter down on the bed and sobbed harder than I did at her funeral, because the funeral was about her death, but this letter was about mine. She wrote, Elena, I am writing this because I do not think I will have the courage to say it to your face. I have been watching you for years. I have been watching you live the same careful, small, terrified life that I lived, and it is breaking my heart. She wrote about watching me abandon my plans to study architecture because it seemed impractical. She wrote about watching me stay in a job I hated for 11 years because the salary was stable. She wrote about watching me stop drawing, stop reading, stop laughing the way I used to laugh when I was young and unafraid. She wrote about watching me shrink myself year after year, becoming quieter, more cautious, more invisible, and recognizing every single stage because she had lived through them all herself. The last line of the letter read, I wasted my life being safe. Please do not waste yours being me. I sat on that bed for over an hour. The house was silent. The cooking show host was gone. The lavender soap was fading. And in that silence, holding that letter, I felt something rupture inside me. Not break, rupture. Like a dam giving way under decades of accumulated pressure. Because she was right. I was becoming her, not in the beautiful ways, not her kindness, not her patience, not her gentle hands. I was becoming her in the tragic ways. I was living a life designed by fear and calling it responsibility. I was building a prison out of predictability and calling it stability. I was slowly, methodically, day by quiet day, burying myself in the same backyard where she planted her roses. And I want to ask you something right now. I want you to stop whatever you are doing for 10 seconds, not 5, 10. And I want you to look at your own life the way I looked at those letters. Not the version you post online, not the version you perform at family dinners, the real version, the raw, unedited, 3LOM version when nobody is watching and the mask comes off. How many letters are you carrying inside you right now? How many words have you never said? How many dreams are sealed in envelopes you keep pushing to the back of the closet? How many times have you told yourself you will start tomorrow, you will change next month, you will finally take the leap once everything is perfect, and how many tomorrows have come and gone while you stood in the same place like a statue pretending to be alive? You are breathing. But breathing is not living. Your lungs are functioning, but your soul is suffocating. You have been on autopilot for so long that you have forgotten what it feels like to actually steer. You wake up, you go through the motions, you perform the script, you come home, you scroll through other people's highlight reels, you feel the familiar ache of longing in your chest, and then you push it down, roll over, and set the alarm to do it all again. That is not a life. That is a loop, and if you do not break the loop, you will end up exactly where my mother ended up, in a quiet room with a box full of letters nobody will ever read. We have been lied to. We have been sold a beautiful, seductive, devastating lie. The lie is this: comfort equals safety, and safety equals happiness. So we chase comfort. We pursue it like oxygen. We design our entire existence around the avoidance of pain, the avoidance of risk, the avoidance of anything that might crack the surface of our carefully controlled reality. We pick the stable job over the one that makes our blood sing. We stay in the relationship that is fine instead of holding out for the one that sets our chest on fire. We say no to the opportunity because what if we fail? What if they laugh? What if the ground opens up beneath us and we fall? So we stand perfectly still and we call it wisdom. But it is not wisdom. It is fear wearing a suit and tie. Your comfort zone is not a sanctuary. It is a coffin with a pillow in it. You have been lying in it so long that the silk lining feels like home, but the walls are closing in. They have been closing in every single day, and you have been so distracted by the softness of the pillow that you did not notice the ceiling getting lower. My mother's comfort zone was that house, that kitchen, that chair by the window. She never left it. She never tested its walls. She never asked, what is on the other side of this quiet, predictable existence? She just stayed, and staying felt responsible. Staying felt mature. Staying felt noble. But staying killed her dreams decades before her body gave out. I am not saying comfort is evil. I am saying that comfort without growth is decay. A tree that stops growing does not stay the same size. It rots from the inside. A mind that stops reaching does not stay sharp. It calcifies. A heart that stops risking does not stay safe. It fossilizes. You are either expanding or you are shrinking. There is no standing still. Standing still is just falling in slow motion. So strip away the excuses. Rip them off like old wallpaper because they're covering the truth, and the truth is this: you are terrified. You are absolutely, fundamentally, bone-deep terrified of what might happen if you actually tried. Not tried casually, not tried with one foot out the door, really tried. Tried with your whole chest, tried with everything on the line, tried and potentially failed in front of everyone. That terror, can you feel it right now? Can you feel it sitting in your stomach like a cold stone? Good. That terror is the exact GPS coordinate of your next breakthrough. Everything you want is hiding directly behind the thing you are most afraid to do. Here is what I did the morning after I read those letters. I did not have a cinematic transformation. There was no inspirational soundtrack. There was no standing on a mountaintop with my arms spread open to the rising sun. There was a woman sitting on a dead woman's bed at 6 a.m. with swollen eyes and a runny nose, holding 47 letters that proved a life could pass without being lived. I drove home. I sat at my own kitchen table. I looked around my own apartment, and for the first time, I saw it clearly. It looked like a waiting room. Everything was functional. Nothing was personal. No art on the walls, no books I was excited about, no project half finished on the counter, no evidence that a human being with passions and fire and hunger lived there. I had been existing. Showing up. Punching the clock of my own life and collecting the minimum wage of experience. I was 43 years old, and I could not point to a single thing in my possession that I had chosen with joy instead of obligation. And I decided something. Not dramatically, not loudly, quietly, like a match being struck in a dark room. I decided that I would not write letters I never send. I would not seal my dreams in envelopes and push them behind old shoes. I would not die with a box full of silence. That decision did not feel brave. It felt necessary, like pulling your hand off a hot stove, like gasping for air after being held underwater. There was no celebration in it. There was just the raw, aching, overdue recognition that I had been holding my breath for 20 years and my lungs were about to collapse. And I need you to have this moment right now, not tomorrow, not when you finish this video, right now. I need you to stop negotiating with your own procrastination. I need you to stop whispering to yourself that you will start when the time is right, because the time has never been right and it never will be. The perfect moment is a fantasy designed by your fear to keep you permanently frozen. Every extraordinary life you have ever admired started with an ordinary morning where someone decided they were done pretending, done performing contentment, done rehearsing excuses, done surviving when they were built to conquer. That is the only difference between the people who change the world and the people who watch it go by. The ones who changed it simply decided, in one terrifying, irreversible, unglamorous moment, to stop pretending they were okay with being ordinary. But let me be honest with you, because if I only told you the beautiful part, I would be lying, and there are enough liars in the world already. The morning after you decide to change, everything fights back. Your old habits do not simply pack their bags and leave politely. They claw at you. They whisper at 3 a.m. They show up disguised as logic. They say things like, "You have responsibilities, and who are you to think you are special?" And remember the last time you tried? Remember how badly it ended? The resistance is real. It is intelligent. It is relentless. And 99 out of 100 people surrender to it within the first 72 hours. They feel the initial surge of determination, they ride the wave of adrenaline, and then the wave crashes and they find themselves back on the same shore, sitting in the same sand, staring at the same horizon they swore they were going to sail toward. Do you know why? Because they were relying on motivation. And motivation is a drug. It gives you a temporary high, a burst of euphoria, a feeling of invincibility. But like every drug, it wears off. And when it wears off, you are left alone with the work. The silent, boring, unglamorous, invisible work that nobody applauds and nobody posts about and nobody cares about except you. Motivation gets you to the gym on January 1st. Discipline is what drags you there on February 14th when it is freezing outside and your body aches and nobody is watching and the excitement is dead. Motivation writes the first page of the business plan at midnight. Discipline is what writes page 47 on a Tuesday afternoon when every cell in your brain is screaming at you to quit. You have to fall in love with the process, not the prize. You have to become obsessed with the daily grind, the repetitive, exhausting, invisible labor that transforms raw potential into finished mastery. A diamond is just a lump of carbon that endured pressure no other stone could survive. Gold is purified by fire so hot it would destroy anything weaker. Every setback you have ever experienced, every failure, every rejection, every door slammed in your face, was not punishment. It was the furnace. You were not being destroyed. You were being purified. The fire was not your enemy. The fire was burning away every part of you that was not strong enough for where you are going. The question is, did you stay in the fire long enough to come out as gold? Or did you run out at the first burn and spend the rest of your life wondering what you could have become? My mother ran. Every single time. The teaching position, she ran. The bookshop, she ran. The painting class, she ran. She felt the first flicker of heat, the first tremor of discomfort, and she retreated to the chair by the window where everything was cool and quiet and dead. I refused to run. And you need to refuse too. Not because it will be easy, because it will be the hardest thing you have ever done. And hard is the only path that leads anywhere worth going. But there is a final enemy, an enemy more dangerous than failure, more persistent than rejection, more destructive than any obstacle the external world will ever throw at you. And this enemy does not live outside your walls. This enemy lives behind your eyes, inside your skull, in the quiet spaces between your thoughts. It is the voice that speaks when nobody else is around, the voice that narrates your life with a tone of quiet contempt, the voice that watches you reach for something extraordinary and immediately says, "You? Really? Have you looked at yourself? Have you seen your bank account? Have you counted your failures? Sit down. Stay small. You are safer here." That voice is not your protector. That voice is your executioner. It has been slowly, patiently, expertly strangling your potential since the day you first felt afraid and decided that fear was a reason to stop instead of a signal to push harder. Your brain was not designed to make you successful. Your brain was designed to keep you alive. And for millions of years, alive meant safe, and safe meant familiar. So every time you try to step beyond the boundary of what you have already done, every time you attempt something new, something bold, something unprecedented in your own history, your brain sounds the alarm. Danger. Retreat. Go back to the cave. The cave is warm. The cave is known. Out there is unknown, and unknown means teeth in the dark. But you are not in the wilderness anymore. The teeth in the dark are not real. The danger your brain is screaming about is not a predator. It is a job interview. It is a business launch. It is a difficult conversation. It is the act of raising your hand and saying, "I have something to offer." Your ancient biology is treating a presentation the same way it would treat a lion, and you have been obeying that biology like a prisoner obeying a guard who lost his keys years ago. The cell door is open. It has been open. You are sitting inside a cage with no lock, paralyzed by a guard with no weapon, following rules that expired 1,000 generations ago. Stand up. Walk out. The guard cannot stop you. He never could. Start talking back to that voice. When it says you are not ready, say, "I will never be ready and I am starting anyway." When it says you are going to fail, say, "Failure is just research and I am collecting data." When it says the world does not need another person like you, say, "The world has never had a person like me because there has never been one and there will never be another." You have to become the dictator of your own mind, not a gentle suggestion maker, a dictator. You decide what thoughts are allowed through the gates. You decide which voices get amplified and which ones get silenced. You decide the narrative. You are not a passenger in your own skull. You are the pilot. Take the controls. This is not about thinking positively. I despise that phrase. Thinking positively while doing nothing is just daydreaming with better marketing. This is about building, brick by brick, day by day, decision by decision, constructing the life you were supposed to live before fear talked you out of it. You are the architect and the construction worker. You draw the blueprint and you pour the concrete. Nobody is coming to build it for you. No mentor is going to descend from the sky and hand you the answers. No algorithm is going to deliver your destiny to your feed. No amount of watching other people succeed is going to deposit success into your account. You have to pick up the tools. The tools are ugly. The tools are heavy. The tools are discipline at 5 m when the bed is warm. The tools are saying no to the people who want you to stay small because your growth makes their stagnation uncomfortable. The tools are reading when you would rather scroll. The tools are saving when you would rather spend. The tools are choosing the long road when every shortcut is begging you to take it. And it will be lonely. I will not lie to you about that. When you start climbing, you will look around and realize that most of the people who stood with you at the bottom are not climbing with you. Some of them will cheer you on. Some of them will watch in silence. And some of them, the ones who are comfortable with the version of you that never tried, will actively try to pull you back down. They will disguise it as concern. They will say you are changing, you are becoming obsessed, you are losing yourself. But you are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself for the first time. And that terrifies them because it reminds them of what they are too afraid to do. Let them go. Bless them and let them go. You cannot carry people to a destination they refuse to walk toward. Your job is not to convince the world that your dream is valid. Your job is to build the dream so high that the world has no choice but to look up. Think about 5 years from now. Close your eyes. See yourself 5 years from today. What does that person look like? Where are they? What have they built? Now ask yourself, is the person you are today, the person sitting in this room right now, living this routine, making these choices, is that person on the path to becoming the person you just imagined? Or is there a gap, a massive, terrifying, honest gap between who you are and who you could be? That gap is not a death sentence. That gap is an invitation. It is the universe handing you a blank page and saying, write something worth reading. I went back to my mother's house one last time. I sat in her chair by the window. I looked at the rose bushes in the backyard, and I did something she never did. I wrote a letter. Not to her, not to my sister, not to anyone else. I wrote a letter to myself, dated 10 years in the future. I wrote to the woman I intend to become. I told her what I was going to build. I told her about the architecture firm I was going to start. I told her about the places I was going to travel. I told her about the life I was going to construct with my own 2 hands, a life that was messy and imperfect and full of failures and absolutely unapologetically mine. And at the bottom of the letter, I wrote one line, "This letter will be opened, not found in a box." I sealed it, I stamped it, and I mailed it to my own address with a note to open it in 10 years. Because I am not my mother. I loved her. I honor her. But I refuse to repeat her. I refuse to live a life made of sealed envelopes and swallowed words and dreams folded neatly into boxes no one will ever open. And you, right now, wherever you are holding an invisible pen. You are sitting in front of an invisible page. And the question burning a hole through your chest is not whether you can write a new story. The question is whether you will. Whether you will put the pen to the page and start. Not perfectly. Not brilliantly. Badly. Awkwardly. With shaking hands and misspelled words and crossed-out sentences. But start. Because a messy page filled with your truth is worth more than 1,000 blank pages kept clean by your silence. And a life lived badly and bravely and fully is infinitely more valuable than a life lived safely and quietly and not at all. My mother's 47 letters taught me the most devastating lesson a daughter can learn. You can love someone your whole life and still watch them disappear inside themselves. You can sit across from someone at dinner for 40 years and never meet the real person hiding behind their eyes. Do not be the letter that is never sent. Do not be the dream that is never chased. Do not be the voice that is never raised. Do not be the beautiful, tragic, carefully preserved box of potential that someone finds in a closet after you are gone and weeps over, because they will never know the person you were too afraid to become. You are still here. Your hands still work, your mind still fires, your heart still beats, and every single beat is a clock ticking down on an opportunity that will never come again. This moment, this breath, this day, it is not a rehearsal, it is the performance. And the audience is your future self, sitting somewhere in a room you have not built yet, waiting to see if you had the courage to begin. So begin. Get up. Right now. Not after this video, not after the next meal, not on Monday. Now. Take the first step. Make the first call. Write the first word. Open the first door. It does not matter if the step is small. Every cathedral ever built started with a single stone laid by a single pair of trembling hands. You have been asleep long enough. The box is open. The letters have been read. The truth is on the table, and it is staring at you, and it is asking one simple question. Are you going to live? Or are you going to spend the rest of your years writing letters you will never send? The pen is in your hand. The page is blank. And your story, your real story, the one you were born to write, begins now. If these words reached inside you and grabbed something that was sleeping, do not let it fall back asleep. Hit that subscribe button right now. Join the people who are done writing letters they never send. Drop a comment below and type "I am still here" to declare that your story is not over. Share this with the one person in your life who is drowning in silence and does not know it yet. And remember, you are not your mother's regrets. You are her second chance. Now close this screen and go do something that scares you. She kept 47 letters in a box for 40 years. I keep 0. I send every single one. Elena, age 43.